our chief engineer, will give us our water conditions report. John, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Morning, everyone. For those of you that did not know, we had a tropical storm that came through the district over the Labor Day weekend. But before I get to that, I'll start off with the typical couple slides about rainfall to date. So as you can see, the last 3 months have been slightly below average rainfall. We're still have high water issues in certain parts of the system associated with this May rainfall that occurred that everybody's well aware of. And we'll obviously wait to see what the month of September brings us. But overall, for the month of August, as I said, it was below average, some roughly 79% of average rainfall, roughly 6.3 inches of rain fell over the district. The largest deficit, thankfully, actually, was over here in Water Conservation Area 3A, so it got a little bit of reprieve during the month and had the least amount of rain throughout the entire district, which allowed water levels to come down prior to the tropical storm that just came through a couple days ago. But overall, looking at the wet season, the upper East Coast basins were the ones that have received the most amount of rain so far since the middle of May when that large rainfall occurred. And you can see the other portions along the lower East Coast, water conservation areas 1 and 2, and of course Lake Okeechobee and the upper Kissimmee are falling right in line behind the upper East Coast. So looking at Tropical Storm Gordon, as I said, it spun up relatively quickly, blew through the district in about 24 hours, just on Monday, Labor Day, came right through the southern portion, just south of the peninsula, right over the Florida Keys. You can see here that the Big Cypress Basin and the lower west coast were the ones that drew the lucky card because the heaviest rainfall fell just offshore from Naples out in the ocean, or actually in the Gulf. But looking at Miami-Dade, southern Miami-Dade, for the areas of the district that did receive rain, that was the most impacted from the rainfall, and I'll talk a little bit more about the operations that have gone on over the last couple of days in South Dade to try to recover from that heavy rainfall. But overall, just for that 3-day total, the district as a whole received about 1.3 inches of rain from Tropical Storm Gordon. So looking at water levels in the upper Kissimmee, they didn't receive a whole lot of rain as a result of the storm. So East Lake Toho is just following its schedule. You can see we're getting that portion of the year where the schedule will start rising up here. Same thing with Lake Toho, the schedule will start rising up during this time of year. So as we move through the next couple days and weeks, you'll see those lake levels start to increase as we follow that schedule up. Lake Kissimmee, as I've talked about several times over the past couple months, we're using Lake Kissimmee to sort of buffer some of the flows coming down the upper chain, try to attenuate some of those flows and hold them back so as not to exacerbate some of the conditions down in Lake Okeechobee. You can see as a result of the recent rains, not just Tropical Storm Gordon, but even some of the typical afternoon rain showers, Lake Kissimmee had come up just recently. It was almost back to its regulation schedule, but it increased. We had to increase discharges in anticipation of heavy rainfall from Tropical Storm Gordon that really didn't materialize. So we increased flows down the river coming out of Lake Kissimmee to about 4,000 CFS. And today and into tomorrow, as you can see, the lake has made a turn, is coming back down, so we're going to be backing off of those flows coming down the river so as to maintain Lake Kissimmee and buffer some of those flows that come out of the upper chain. Looking at Lake Okeechobee, as of this morning, the lake stage is sitting here at 14.66. It's come up roughly 1/4 foot in the last 30 days. It did receive some direct rainfall from the tropical storm. So over the last week or so, it came up roughly 0.06 of a foot. A lot of on the next graphic, you'll see some of the slight rise. It's really hard actually to discern, but it's this red line clustered amongst all these other lines right in here. So there was a small uptick in the lake stage attributed to Tropical Storm Gordon, but that was mostly from the direct rainfall that fell on Lake Okeechobee. We haven't really seen the inflows have a dramatic increase into the lake as a result of Tropical Storm Gordon. So as I said, it's sitting right around 14.66 this date, and lake stage is a couple days old, but as of this morning, it's at 14.66. So looking at the conservation areas, starting at Area 1, you can see right here, Area 1 stage did obviously increase from those rains, but however, it is still below its regulation schedule for this time of year. So it'll rise up. We expect it to continue to rise up from the various operations that are occurring from the basin and also trying to move lake water south. Area 2 also increased in stage as a result of the rains from Tropical Storm Gordon. It had been down here just below the deviation line, but yet still above the original, not the original, but rather the authorized regulation schedule. If you recall, the Corps of Engineers implemented a deviation, which is this line, some months back. So as a result of those recent rains, Area 2 once again increased and is sitting just about right at that deviation line that was previously approved. The S11s are currently open, and they're moving water from Area 2 down into Area 3. Looking at Area 3, a similar story from those recent rains. You can see Area 3 once again increased in stage. It had been below the Increment 2 action line, which is this dotted line here, but with those recent rains, the stage did increase to be just above that action line. So what that means for operations in the southern portion of the system is once Area 3A crossed over that line, it then has the effect of giving priority discharge into the L29 back over to the S333 structure located right here. However, as I said, South Dade is still recovering from the heavy rainfall associated with Tropical Storm Gordon. In total, just this specific area in southern Miami-Dade County received somewhere between 3 and 5 inches of rain directly attributed to the tropical storm. So the current operations for the South Dade conveyance system right now is we are still giving priority to the S356 pump station, trying to move that water out of the L31 North located along here and push it back towards Northeast Shark River Slough, as well as get some of the stages in the L30 up along here under control and using the 356 pump station to be able to move that water into Northeast Shark River Slough. The 331 pump station as well as the 356 pump station, the 357 pump station, which is the pump station associated with the Las Palmas community, or otherwise known as the 8.5 square mile area. We've adjusted both of those operating ranges down a little bit so as to be able to more effectively move water out of the 8.5 square mile area and provide them flood mitigation. So what that means is the other pump stations along the South Dade conveyance system, the 332s, have been running with all available units, filling up the detention cells, trying to maintain water levels in the upper C111 canal. The S199 and S200 pump stations are running all units. A good news portion of that story is, if you recall, about a year ago, the governing board took action and authorized the construction of the Florida Bay project. A piece of that project was to install a 4th pump in each of those pump stations. Both of those pumps are in place and running right now, so they were available for this event. So instead of having just 3 pumps at each station, we've had all 4 of those pump stations all 4 of those pumps at both pump stations up and running, maintaining levels along the C111 canal. Going further down, looking at the S197 structure, going through the tropical storm, leading up to the tropical storm, the Water Management District, in cooperation with the Corps of Engineers and Everglades National Park, were conducting a flow test associated with the S197 structure and some monitoring out there in Barnes Sound. So the structure had been discharging roughly 300 to 400 CFS prior to the storm. Throughout the storm, we tried to maintain that level until we reached a point where it was untenable anymore, and stages both at 18C and 177 rose significantly. So stages at 177 got up to 4.3, 4.4, and stages at headwaters of S18C were up around 3.4. So at that point, we had to make a decision. Stages were continuing to rise, and we still had additional rainfall coming onshore associated with the tropical storm. So at that point, we went to a full opening of the S197 structure on, I believe it was Sunday, late Sunday. And ever since Then through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and all the way up through this morning, we've been making gradual reductions in the discharge out of S197. So today, actually, I think right now the crews are en route driving down there to effectuate a gate change and reduce those flows from what their maximum was back on Monday at 2,400 CFS down to about 700 CFS as of later this morning. It'll probably take about 2 hours for all those gates to move because they have to do them manually. But once that change is made, we're anticipating about 700 CFS being discharged out of S197. So with that, just jumping back up to the L29 canal, as I said, we're giving priority to the 356 pump station over here, which means there currently is zero flow coming out of the 333 structure. All of the discharge coming out of Conservation Area 3A is being handled by the S12s, A, B, C, and D. They're currently discharging about 2,100 CFS. If you recall, the Water Management District has been implementing some of those emergency operations. We've been continuing those, so specifically for Conservation Area 3A, remember that we have several temporary pumps that have been set up. We're continuing to operate those temporary pumps right here, moving more water out of 3A that we can then pass down the Miami River and out to Tide. We have the temporary pumps located along the L29, moving water out of Area 3B into the L29. One of those pumps had gone down a couple days ago, but Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe all 4 of them are currently up and running right now, moving that water out of Area 3B out into L29 and Northeast Shark River Slough. So looking at the future, this is basically the same graphic that I presented last month. We're looking at above average rainfall conditions projected through February of 2019, according to the Climate Prediction Center. And then lastly, I'll just wrap up with a look at the tropics. Over here, you can see what's left of Gordon. It's going to spin off and go through the rest of the continental U.S. This is Florence. It is expected to track east and potentially pose a threat to the East Coast from South Carolina up through Virginia and into Maryland. So obviously those folks will have to continue to watch that storm over the coming days. Really what we're paying attention to is this disturbance right here that came off of the coast of Africa a couple days ago, as well as another one that's just starting to come off the coast of Africa. So both of those waves are anticipated to start tracking to the east. In particular, this one here is anticipated to move over towards the Lesser Antilles over the next 3 to 5 days. So that's something we're going to have to keep an eye on and watch its development.